To develop great relationships and even to improve broken relationships, I recommend you manage your agreements. An agreement can be a plan or a promise. An agreement is an intention or a goal. An agreement is any time you tell somebody else that you will do something. And what I recommend is you make a lot of them. You make a lot of promises, detailed, specific, big ones. And you make a lot of plans, detailed, specific, and big ones. And I believe that that will help develop and improve your relationship. Now, once you've made those big promises or those big plans, I recommend you manage them with these steps. First, of course, keep it, if possible. That's the first step. But oftentimes, that is not so easy to do. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't make big promises or big plans. And if you can keep them, keep them. But when that doesn't work, the second step is to tell the person that the plan or the promise is at risk. So you go and say, I know I said I would do this, and I might not get it done. So I just want you to know that I'm still working on it, I'm still giving it my all, and it's at risk. The third way to manage an agreement is to renegotiate it. Now, renegotiation is when you go to somebody and you say, I have made this promise with you, or I've made this plan, and I can still keep it. And it would be more convenient for me, and I would prefer if we change it, and if we change it in this way. Now, that renegotiation might mean that you're changing the time, or you might be changing some part of the promise or the plan. The renegotiation is only done when it's legitimately something that you can still fulfill. If you can't fulfill it, don't go to that step 3. Instead, go to step 4. Step 4 in managing an agreement is to rescind it. Now, I know that to rescind a promise is something that many of you would say, well, I don't want to do that. That's not ethical. Well, I think it's way more ethical than breaking it. If you know that you're not going to be able to keep a promise, rescind it first. Rescind it so that the person has a lot of time to change whatever they're going to do, and they don't have to deal with the broken promise. But now let's get to that 5th step, which is breaking a promise, because that is a way to deal with agreements. We do break them. And when we break them, this is what I recommend. Go to the person as soon as possible, maybe even before they realize you broke the agreement. As soon as you can, go to the other person and say, I broke the promise, or I didn't fulfill the plan, or I'm not going to fulfill the plan. I know I said I would, but I'm not. I apologize, and then after the apology, do one of 2 things. 1, recommit to the agreement, or 2, rescind the agreement. Because at that point, the other person wants to know what they can count on. And if you rescind the agreement, then they know that they can't count on you doing that in the future. Now, I realize that some agreements, you make them and break them, and then there's no way to recommit to them because the deal is done. But let's say that you have an agreement with somebody to do something every Monday at 5, and you make a mistake once. You go back, you apologize, and say, I know I made a mistake, I apologize, and I'm going to keep it. You can count on me. Or, I'm going to rescind it. I'm not going to do it from now on Mondays at 5. You can count on that. You notice when I talked about apologizing and recommitting or rescinding, what I didn't add in was an excuse, which is what most people do. Most people, after they break their word and apologize to you, they go on and on about why they broke their word, why they didn't do it. And generally, their explanation has a lot to do with blaming others for not keeping their words. But I think that long explanation is really uninteresting to most people. And it's really done more to ease the conscience of the promiser than it is to provide any useful information to the person to whom you broke the promise. So I'm recommending forget the excuses. I know a lot of people, when they break their word or they don't fulfill a plan and then they give you a bunch of excuses, they're kind of saying, well, see, I really am a great person. I really am a man of integrity. I know I broke my word, but here's all the good reasons why I did, so really I didn't break my word. Now, that never flies. I mean, nobody ever buys that, but we keep trying it. So I recommend you stop that, you eliminate the excuse. You just say, hey, I broke my word, I'm apologize, and this is now what you can count on me for. Well, those are the steps that I've outlined in making an agreement and managing your agreements. If you'd like to review those, just go over to that Review Now button and hit it, and it will take you back to the place in this nugget where I started that 5-step points about how to manage your agreements. Now, if you just want to review that part about what to do if you break your agreement, then hit the review button now, and that'll just take you back to that little piece about what to do if you break your agreement. Now, when you're improving relationships, keep focusing on managing agreements.